Hello again. I'm Anıl. I'm going to talking about the series macros. I'm working on Trendyol, which is the biggest e-commerce company on Turkey. I came from Istanbul, and I'm working on the platform team. We are monitoring the performance, our build time, our application launch time, because one day our application starts 4 seconds to launch, and we investigate that issue, and we see that we have lots of dynamic library on our applications. And we suddenly realized Apple suggests only 5 dynamic library. And after that, platform team building against these situations, and we reduce everything to static library. And biggest mistake is using lots of dynamic library in the same application. We have maybe at that time, 2019, 200 dynamic library, and it's very huge. That's why application took 4 seconds to launch. And also, you can see we use XU metrics to monitor our build time, and every healing builds, also incremental, also OS versions. We are researching that data and collecting actually from our virtual machines and our users. And also, we want to increase our developer experience. Platform team similar to DevFest team actually. We want to increase our developers' experience. For example, everybody faced with the conflicts on Xcode Prosh or another class. With Twist, you can eliminate that situation actually. There is no Xcode Prosh. You can create with the suite package with the Twist. And when you run the Twist generate, there is no Xcode projects on your Git files. And every time every user can create from scratch. It was very beautiful actually. Also, we create architectures frameworks because we have 6 or 7 team on the iOS side. We have 80 people on the same team. We have grocery, meal, main application about e-commerce, and also international fashion sites, also second retail, and all of them combined to one super applications. That's why we are creating the architecture frameworks, and we release them to them actually. Also, we are creating traceable structures. Today, I will talk about the why macros, why they are invented, also what the hell is that, behind of the design philosophy and their roles, and out I will wrap up all of the macros. I'd like to a why question, because before I understand some situations, I need to know the why they are invented that, and what is the main problem about that position. Let's see. Apple created lots of good stuff for us. For example, when you do anything about the codable, you don't handle their encoding on decoding properties. Apple handled that easily. You don't need to create any enum because it can directly have that name with reflections. Also, you can initialize you don't need anything to initialize. The decoder can handle all of the stuffs. Also, no need to encode any requests. Apple handled that. And Apple created lots of good stuff for us. For example, built-in code expansion is Zeus macros. I will talk about that. Also, another good one is property wrappers. I love them actually, because when you use to decode something not exists, for example, I will reach on response type user type, and new type exists. For example, editor. Editor is not this enum. I need to decode this property. You can see try user type raw value decoder single value container. If not exists, return the none. What you can do with that property wrappers. For example, I create that in default codable protocol property wrappers, and if not came, last case will be default one. It's a good one. But we will talk about the macros. That's why I will mention the property wrappers. Property wrappers cannot reach the stored variables. It's only redefine the variable actually. Also, you can see the isAdmin rule. If not, it comes from the user response, default value will be false. Also, result builders is so good on the Suite UI side. Also, lots of good stuff, maybe main attribute, member-wise initializers. You are not in that situations. Apple give them you predefined codes. But one day, it's not enough. You need to create one of the things. What can you do about that situation? You can open MR to see it because it's open source, but you need to face with the video conference. You need to give your proposal. You need to give your all of the feedbacks. And after that, you need to convince them. It's a good approach and we need that. Actually, all of the people can use and it's reusable and it's a hard choice. You can skip that part actually. None of them is going to will be so easily because you need that feature immediately. And Apple said one more thing in one night. Actually, on this WWDC this year, they released this with macros with Xcode 15. Actually, you don't need to create any virtual case to suit repos. You can create your own. What do you mean? You are creating your source code. It will be a compiler plugin. You can directly talk with the compiler on this state. It's a new feature. You need to upgrade to Xcode 15. And it will avoid writing repeated code. It's remove all of the boilerplates. You can create easily with your some situations, and you can use directly in your code base. And you can share with that SPM. There's three philosophy exists on that situation actually. They want to be so simple. There's two types of macros. One of them is freestanding, another one is attached. Freestanding is so simple. You can declare with the DS sign, and it replaces the declaration, which means you are creating some variable and it change all of the situations. It's not creating another place, it just replaces the declaration. For example, icon must be optional, and when you use the DS unwrap method macro, it will give you do some guardlets inside of that code and return the non-optional value. On the other hand, attach macros is attached to another declaration. They are not declaration. They are attaching to existing declaration actually, and they are starting with the @ sign. Their compiler sites actually, their compiler level running all of the situation, and that's why plus operator needs to complete, and macros also handle that. They are type check, they are also super safe. You cannot pass into which is waiting to string, they are type sensitive, and they are validating. You cannot use the struct macro on class side or another side of that. They are checking all of them. But they are not magic. You are just creating the code base and talking with the compiler. If this comes, return this value. If this happens, you can change that value to that place. As you know, we always work with the previews on Civil.ui. Actually, it's a macro. If you click right on the preview, it will expand to all of the code base. As you see, it's a struct and it creates the make preview function. Actually, macros creates another declaration inside that, and you can see that expand when expanding that. For example, let's see the preview macro, and it creates that struct, and also it has variables, and also it has function, and return the preview. But we just declare the preview. That's all. You can create something like that. Let's see the unwrap expression macro. It's a freestanding, as you know. It replaces the declaration. It's not attaching anything. With this one, it's unwrapping image, and with image, you can see let wrap value as precondition failure, and it's return wrap value. If you do it on your Swift code, it's not will be on the compile time actually. It will be on the runtime. But with the Swift macros, it will give compiler if this image is new. Let's see the freestanding expression. For example, stringify. You will insert two integers to this stringify, and it will send that a and view to compile a plugin. After that, it will return all of the code. It will add two of them and also return to their string type. And by the way, we are using Twist so efficiently. We are using our modularization process and all of our targets creating with the Twist. We have 500 targets at the one projects and maybe six application, and all of them will be easily handled by Twist. Also, Swift macros are SPM projects, and you need to recompile every time when you clear all of the drive data. With Twist, it's open source for us, by the way. There's no commercial in here. I'm not getting anything about Twist. It's I love to contribute and their support to open source project. That's why you can look. They're not getting any price, and all of the code is open source. And they write all native Swift. You can look at that. And they are changing SPM package to Swift macros Xcode approach. With this approach, you cannot face with any problem with the SPM issues actually. When you decide which macro will be used in the which code base, there's three questions actually. Where, what type of, and where the expressions are inserted. The three questions is enough because we have 7 available macro types, and 2 of them is freestanding, and the other one is attached. I mentioned the freestanding expressions, also declarations, decorating and returning values, but attached ones are different. All of the type are actually have some minor difference, and you can use their specific needs. Let's see the freestanding expression. You always create like that code actually, garblet URL, and it's returned to your value, and always valid because only non-valid situation is you need to press the space between the cv.or actually. With this macro, you can directly create a valid URL. If it's not valid, it will give you compile error. You don't need to face with the runtime actually. With runtime, you just face with the while running your application. You cannot catch that. It's very useful. When we look at the URL macro expanding, let's see. And you can see there, we reached the argument. You need to be familiar with the Swift syntax. Apple released that actually. You are getting the code base actually as a string, and you are returning value as a string. It's the most important part. You can look at the 36 here. We are just returning as a string value because we are just returning the code base. We are not handling any situations. You just import this value like that, and it will return URL string argument with forced. Also, we have the declaration. I think you all familiar with the warning declaration. It is not replacing with anything. It's directly do something actually. With this expansion, you can see there's a context diagnose, and it will give you warning or error on the deadline. You can reach the compiler situations actually. And also we have lots of available macro laws about the attached ones. You can see the peer one. While you are transferring your code base to async awaits, you need to create 2 of that actually. You need to give backward compatibility on your network manager. But with the attached peer, you don't need to create that one. You will overload same method with this macro. Let's see that. When you add this add completion handler macro to function, it will expand the same method with completion. It will remove the async keyword and add on completion, and it will overload it. It's not replacing the same function. You will have one async and one completion method. Without that, actually, you need to write the same code again and again. And some of the Android developers exist on here, and he can talk about that. We already do that so earlier. but Apple improved their best and do it right now. That's why we are reaching that right now, actually. But it's so similar to Android code insights. They always have the compiler plugin and compile code generation earlier. Also, let's look at the person struct. It's similar to all of you. There was a protocol about dictionary representable. Let's understand what did one do. Actually, it initializes with dictionary. After that, it will return the name and height and reaching their dictionary values as a string, actually. And when you setting done, it will set to directly the dictionary. Maybe it's an old one, actually, but some of the code base exists still on somewhere. With the attached accessor, you can directly reach the variables. But let's look at what's the difference between property wrappers. Property wrappers cannot reach the stored values, and it cannot change the code base, actually. With macros, you can expand new code, actually, with these expansions. And also, it can reach directly the variables. For example, on here, we just changed the name string, and it can reach the name with reflection, also reach the dictionary, and return the value. That's why it's different than property wrappers. It can reach the stored variables. Also, we have another one, memory attributes. When you declare that, you can use macros together, actually. They have combines. For example, let's see the memory attribute. When we used on the name and height, the below one, as you see, we can give that macro to struct. It will apply all of the members, that logic. You don't need to declare specifically. But on birthdays, actually, we are declare again. Why? Because it changed the syntax, actually. It's a snake case. It's not camel case. That's why it can be changeable, and you can use two of them together. As you see, they can attach them multiple times, and one of the must be applicable. What do you mean? You can access directly the member or another class like a struct. You need to specify that, but if one of them is applicable, this one will be applied to all of them. We will look at again. For example, struct will be reach the dictionary storage, and also birth date variable also reach the dictionary storage. We have two macros together, and one of them will be applied struct, one of them will be reach the accessors. Also, you can reach the members directly with the initialize. For example, you can see this member initializing. They create the initializer on here like that. You don't need to write the init and stored property. When you're using this macro member, it can create the initializer and also create the stored properties. But there's one thing, they can see their expansions. You can't mix them actually that much. You assume that there's a stored variable, and you can assume that actually you cannot directly contain and talk about that. There's no way to do that. But with accessor role, property accessors reach. With the member role, initializer and property you can create. It will combine. When you use the member, you don't need to change anything. Struct will apply the dictionary storage and create stored property. And also we remove the initializers, as you see. It will create that simple code base. Also, another one is conformance. Conformance will be remove the protocols. If you remember, person as a protocol about the dictionary representable, with this attach macro, you don't need to write that. It will directly conform that and do some stuff actually on compiler level. The previous one, as you see, the gray area are removed actually. We just have name, height, and all of the code base goes to macro. You can create lots of stuff with this. That's why I think macros is super easy and need to use because it removes the boilerplate code, and also there's no way to create again and again. I think the best part of is typeset and powerful, which we can extend to C code, and we are writing directly to C. Maybe you are familiar with the C macros. You need to create on the Objective-C macros, but it's hard to understand, and we are reaching directly the C programming. But you can create it right now with the C. And also you can create the cooperate with the build process. You are directly reaching that, and you are doing some stuff on the build time. You don't need to handle some stuff on the runtime. You don't need to wait. You can handle that. And also it removes the boilerplate cost. But on cons, it's hard to imagine what they do, because when you see the attach macro or freestanding macro, you cannot directly understand what's doing. You are just seeing the expanding the situations. You can expand directly, but it's hard to imagine. And also it requires the civil syntax knowledge, because you need to reach that code base and return something. And also macro code might be hard to understand because it's really hard to understand. Let's see that this one is macro code. And when I first see this code base, it's hard to look at the string literal express syntax. It's reaching to argument this first expressions. After that, it takes message expression segment first and throw away simple error. It's hard to understand first time because you don't know what to get, and you just know the returning types. When you get involved, actually it's getting easier. And that's all actually. See you later. Thank you for attention. You can see this reference on here. I watched the Apple WWDC video, and also WWDC notes are so clear. If you have a question, I can get it.